family. We stand in solidarity with wounded people in Sanford, Florida, the wounded people in New York City, wounded people in Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Wilmington, Delaware. And today's press conference is that the city and the county and the state of Delaware might hear the response from the clergy that feel greatly impacted and affected by this acquittal. We have a press statement that has been crafted by the executive committee, executive council of IMAC. It's going to be read by the Reverend Dr. Lawrence Livingston, who is our secretary, but also chairs our Political Action Social Justice Subcommittee. Reverend Dr. Livingston.
Thank you, Reverend Beeman. You may have to bear with me just a little. Chronic case of hiccups, and so you bear with me, and every now and then I'm wondering if God's not giving me that so I can get that Baptist timing and cadence that I need so much. So I have to pause between phrases.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Well, the murder of 16-year-old Trayvon Martin and the acquittal of his killer more than suggests there's a double standard of justice in our country. One for white Americans and another for African Americans. The George Zimmerman trial clearly conveys that we are living in an age of a new Jim Crow, when black men are criminalized and whites are justified in the use of deadly force to bring them down. We believe this case would have been completely different were the situation reversed and Trayvon Martin, a white teenager, and George Zimmerman, a black adult man carrying the gun that killed him. We stand with those, including the NAACP and others, calling for further investigation and perhaps civil action following this case. We also stand with the family of the deceased that the only way for Trayvon to rest in peace is for there to be peace following this verdict. There are facts in this case which cannot be overlooked. The first is Trayvon Martin was a child, a teenager of 16 years old, that he could be killed armed with nothing more than a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea, while his killer was armed with a handgun, implies that the lives of all black children are of little value in this society. Another fact is George Zimmerman was not only the owner of the gun used to kill Martin, but he was the aggressor, who followed young Trayvon close enough to be detected. This fact came out in trial in Martin's last cell phone call. He was being followed by Zimmerman, an act of aggression. A third fact is Mr. Zimmerman was told by the dispatcher to stay in his car and wait for the police to arrive. If he had followed this directive, he would have found that Martin's father lived in the community, and he, meaning Martin, was not up to Zimmerman's suspected mischief, but had a right to be there. Among the several facts that apparently don't stand up to this double standard of justice is Zimmerman racially profiled young Trayvon Martin. He gave several descriptors to the radio dispatcher, including Martin was black, wearing a so-called hoodie, a sweatshirt with a hood, walking slowly, and he looked suspicious by Zimmerman's account. There used to be a time when black people couldn't run through the neighborhood. Now we can't walk slowly through the neighborhood. Amen. Unless you agree that all 16-year-old black young men are suspect and up to no good, there is nothing about Zimmerman's description of Trayvon that suggests criminal intent. Yet Zimmerman followed Martin and racially profiled him, armed with a gun and apparently ready to claim self-defense under Florida's egregious stand your ground law. Such a law allows an aggressor of a dead victim to claim self-defense and apparently be acquitted, especially if the victim is a black man or a teenager. Again, if the facts were opposite, the young boy white and Zimmerman African American, we believe outcome would have been different and should be. If the young boy were white and Zimmerman were black, he should be found guilty. The color doesn't change the facts of the case. Given these facts, we cannot stand by and continue to allow the lives of African Americans, particularly the lives of children, to be so grossly devalued. There was much about this case that undervalued the life of Trayvon Martin, from his being racially profiled all the way through to the verdict. He was criminalized by Zimmerman just for walking while black and returned to his father's house after leaving the store. Martin was further criminalized by a justice system that was too easily willing to put him on trial in place of the real defendant. His 16-year-old behavior and demeanor was called into question. I dare say that maybe not many of us would want our 16-year-old behavior to be called into question. Once our children have been criminalized in this way, it is then a small jump to easily discard them. This double standard hints and suggests that Martin deserved what happened and a killer was justified in his murder. A dead white teen would not have been so grossly and outrageously defamed to justify his murder, particularly if the shooter happens to be a black man. In closing, we quote Marion Wright Edelman and agree with her. The outrage over the killing of an unarmed black teenager who was doing nothing wrong must continue until some semblance of justice is achieved. People who want to keep faith in American justice feel uncomfortable, upset, and disheartened. Where's the justice if walking while black is enough to get you stopped and frisked in New York City and fatally shot in Florida with this senseless, violent, stand your ground law that allows people to defend themselves with deadly force anytime and anywhere they imagine they say they feel threatened, even if they are the stalker. This case and this verdict is a wake-up call to us all that we can no longer rest on the laurels of so-called progress, where issues of race and injustice are concerned. Our action plan includes the following. We need to enter into a prayerful time and sense of healing the land of the injustice that plagues our nation on these and other issues of injustice. We need to confess that we have not been as diligent about proclaiming the justice of God that calls all people into accountability to principles of equality and righteousness in the world, including issues of race and poverty. We need to challenge ourselves and the African American community to a sense of unity in our community. We need to challenge our community to a better way of life and understanding. A black child's life is infinitely valuable no matter who the shooter is, whether the shooter is black or white, and we need to challenge our community to stop the violence